The desperate signal commander Elena Vasquez stood in the observation deck of the orbital station Aurora Prime, watching Earth slowly rotate beneath her. The blue marble looked peaceful from this distance, but Elena knew that humanity had never been more ready for war. After centuries of conflict on their home planet, humans had finally learned to work together, and now they controlled the most advanced military force in the solar system. The communication alert broke her thoughts. Lieutenant James Park rushed toward her, his face pale with excitement and fear. Elena had never seen the young officer look so shaken, and she had worked with him for 3 years. "Commander, we've received something impossible," James said, his voice trembling. "It's a signal from outside our solar system. Way outside. The computers estimate it came from over 15,000 light-years away." Elena followed him to the communication center, where dozens of technicians were studying data streams on their screens. The signal was unlike anything in their databases. It pulsed with patterns that seemed almost musical, but underneath the beauty was something desperate and urgent. "How long have we been receiving it?" Elena asked. "About 2 hours now," replied Dr. Michelle Torres, the station's chief scientist. "But Commander, this is the strange part. The signal is being broadcast on frequencies we've never used, yet our systems can decode it perfectly. It's as if whoever sent this knew exactly how to reach us." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. Earth had been sending radio signals into space for over a century, but they had never received a response. Now, suddenly, someone was calling them from across the galaxy. "Can you translate it?" she asked. Dr. Torres nodded and activated the speakers. The voice that emerged was unlike anything human, with harmonics that seemed to resonate from multiple sources at once. Yet the translation was clear and heartbreaking. "To the warriors of the Death Planet, we are the Therians of the Kepler 438 system. Our peaceful worlds are under attack by an enemy we cannot comprehend. They call themselves the Void Swarm, and they consume everything in their path. We have heard whispers of your species, beings who know warfare as we know art. Our cities are falling. Our people are dying. We have nowhere else to turn." The message continued with technical data about their location and the nature of their enemy. Elena listened in growing amazement as the Therians described battles that had raged for months across multiple star systems. Entire civilizations had been wiped out by this void swarm, their planets left as empty husks. "Commander," Dr. Torres said quietly, "there's more. The signal isn't just from the Therians. We're detecting similar distress calls from at least 6 other species. They're all asking for help from the same source." "From us?" Elena asked. "From the Deathworlders. That's what they call us. Apparently, Earth has a reputation out there as the galaxy's most dangerous planet, and humans are known as the survivors who never give up." Elena had to sit down as the implications hit her. Humanity wasn't alone in the universe, and somehow their reputation had spread across the galaxy. But more importantly, entire civilizations were dying while calling for help. She activated her emergency communication link to Earth Command. Within minutes, she was connected to General Robert Harrison, the head of Earth's Unified Defense Force. The general's weathered face appeared on her screen, showing the experience of decades spent preparing for threats that might never come. "Elena, I've been watching the data feed from your station," General Harrison said. "Is this real?" "As real as anything gets, sir. We have multiple alien civilizations requesting military assistance against an enemy that's apparently wiping out entire star systems." The general was quiet for a long moment. "How much do we know about this void swarm?" Dr. Torres stepped forward. "General, based on the data we've received, the void swarm appears to be a collective intelligence that spreads from system to system. They don't negotiate, they don't communicate, they simply consume. The Therians have been fighting them for 8 months and have lost over half their worlds. And they specifically asked for help from Earth, the general asked. Yes, sir. They called us Deathworlders and said we were their last hope. Elena watched as the general processed this information. She had known Robert Harrison for 10 years, and she had never seen him look so troubled. The decision he was about to make would change humanity's place in the universe forever. Sir, Elena said, there's something else. The Therians mentioned that the Void Swarm's path of destruction is heading in our direction. If we don't stop them where they are, they'll eventually reach our sector of the galaxy. The general's expression hardened. Are you telling me that we're looking at a threat to Earth itself? That's exactly what I'm telling you, sir. The communication link went silent for several minutes as the general consulted with his advisors. Elena could hear urgent voices in the background, debates about alien contact protocols and military readiness. Finally, the general's face reappeared on the screen. Commander Vasquez, I'm issuing Emergency Order Alpha 7. All Earth defense. Forces are to report to their combat stations immediately. We're going to war. Elena felt her heart race. Emergency Order Alpha 7 was the highest level of military mobilization in human history. It meant that every available ship, every trained soldier, and every piece of military equipment would be gathered for one purpose. Sir, are we really going to do this? Are we going to take our entire fleet into unknown space to fight an enemy we know nothing about? General Harrison's expression was grim but determined. Elena, for the first time in human history, we have a chance to be something more than survivors fighting each other. We have a chance to be heroes who save entire civilizations. Besides, if this void swarm is as dangerous as it sounds, we'll have to fight them eventually. Better to fight them now with all eyes than alone later. The orders began flowing immediately. Ships from Mars, Jupiter, and the asteroid belt received emergency recall commands. The massive orbital shipyards around Earth went into overdrive, preparing vessels for the longest journey in human history. Scientists worked frantically to understand the alien technology data that had been included in the distress calls. Elena found herself appointed as the fleet's communication coordinator, responsible for maintaining contact with the alien species they were going to help. It was a responsibility that terrified and thrilled her at the same time. As she worked through the night, preparing for humanity's first interstellar military operation, Elena received another transmission from the Therians. This one was weaker, filled with static and interference. Warriors of the Death Planet, we hope you received our message. The Void Swarm has reached our inner system. Our moon colonies have fallen, and our homeworld is under direct attack. We have perhaps days before our civilization ends forever. If you are coming, please hurry. We cannot hold much longer. Elena stared at the transmission data, realizing that they were racing against time. Somewhere across the galaxy, an entire species was fighting for survival, placing their faith in humans they had never met. She opened a channel to respond to. The Therians, knowing that her words would take days to reach them across the vast distances of space. This is Commander Elena Vasquez of the Earth Defense Force. We received your call for help. Humanity is mobilizing its entire fleet to assist. Hold on, we're coming. As she sent the message, Elena wondered if they would arrive in time to save anyone. The Void Swarm sounded like nothing humanity had ever faced before. But as she looked out at the ships gathering around Earth, she felt something she hadn't expected: hope. Humans had survived ice ages, world wars, and the harsh realities of space colonization. They had learned to fight against impossible odds and never give up. Now, for the first time, they had a chance to use those skills not for conquest, but for salvation. The fleet would be ready to launch within days. The question was whether they would be fast enough to save the civilizations crying out for help across the galaxy. Elena returned to her work, coordinating the massive operation that would take humanity farther from home than they had ever gone. Before, as she worked, she kept thinking about the Therians' words, warriors of the Death Planet. It was time to show the galaxy what that really meant. Asterisk. The fleet assembles the space around Earth had never seen anything like it. Ships arrived from every corner of the solar system, creating the largest gathering of military vessels in human history. Captain Marcus Chun stood on the bridge of his ship, the UES Prometheus, watching as more vessels dropped out of hyperspace every hour. His ship was one of the newest in the fleet, equipped with experimental weapons that had never been tested in real combat. Marcus had been chosen to lead the Advanced Squadron, a group of fast, heavily armed ships that would scout ahead of the main fleet. It was an honor that came with deadly responsibility. If they encountered the Void Swarm before the main force arrived, his squadron would be humanity's first line of defense. "Captain, we're receiving final departure clearance from Earth Command," reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim. She was young but brilliant, having graduated at the top of her class from the Space Naval Academy. "The fleet count is now at 1,200 ships." Marcus nodded, still amazed by the response. When the call had gone out for volunteers, nearly every qualified pilot and crew member in the solar system had answered. They were about to embark on a journey that would take them farther from Earth than any human had ever traveled, to fight an enemy they knew almost nothing about. "Lieutenant Kim, any word from the alien contacts?" Marcus asked. Sarah's expression grew troubled. "The Therian signals are getting weaker, Captain. The last transmission was 6 hours ago. They reported that the Void Swarm had reached their inner planets and that their defensive fleets were being overwhelmed." The bridge fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. They were racing against time to save people they had never met, and every hour of delay meant more lives lost. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the fleet's chief scientist, entered the bridge carrying a tablet filled with alien data. She had been working non-stop for 3 days, trying to understand the technology and tactics of both their allies and their enemies. "Captain, I've finished analyzing the technical data the Therians sent us," Dr. Walsh said. "The Void Swarm is unlike anything we've ever encountered. They're not just a military force. They're more like a living virus that spreads from system to system." Marcus studied the data on her tablet. The images showed swarms of dark ships moving through space, like schools of fish, perfectly coordinated and utterly relentless. "What are we looking at, Doctor?" "Based on the Therian observations, the Void Swarm appears to be controlled by a collective intelligence. Individual ships don't make decisions. They simply follow the commands of the swarm mind. They're incredibly efficient, but that might also be their weakness." "How so?" Dr. Walsh highlighted sections of the data. The Therians fought them using traditional military tactics, ship-to-ship combat with organized formations. But the Void Swarm adapted to those tactics very quickly. However, humans have never fought traditional battles. We've always been chaotic, unpredictable, and willing to take insane risks. Marcus understood what she was suggesting. "You think our unpredictability might give us an advantage?" "I think it's our only advantage. The Void Swarm learns from every battle, but they've never fought opponents like us before." The fleet began its departure sequence as the last ships arrived from the outer system. The sight was incredible. 1,200 vessels of every size and type, all moving together toward the edge of the solar system. There were massive battleships from the Mars Defense Fleet, sleek destroyers from the Jupiter Patrol, and dozens of smaller ships that had been converted from civilian use. As they reached the hyperspace jump point, Marcus received a priority message from Commander Vasquez aboard the fleet flagship. Her face appeared on his screen, showing the strain of the past few days. "Captain Chun, your squadron will jump first and establish the hyperspace corridor for the main fleet. Your orders are to scout ahead and report any signs of the Void Swarm, but do not engage unless absolutely necessary. Understood, Commander? We'll clear the path for you. Marcus turned to his crew. All stations, prepare for hyperspace jump. We're about to make history. The Prometheus and its escort ships activated their hyperspace drives, and the stars around them stretched into lines of light. The journey to the Therian system would take 2 weeks at maximum speed, but they were traveling through regions of space that no human had ever seen. 3 days into the journey, they encountered their first signs of the enemy. Lieutenant Kim's sensors detected debris fields scattered across their path, the remains of what had once been a thriving star system. Captain, I'm picking up massive debris signatures, Kim reported. It looks like the wreckage of hundreds of ships. Marcus ordered the squadron to investigate. What they found was horrifying. The debris wasn't just from military vessels, but from entire civilizations. Civilian ships, space stations, even what appeared to be orbital cities, all torn apart and left floating in space. Dear God, whispered Dr. Walsh as she studied the sensor data. This wasn't a battle. It was a massacre. The wreckage told the story of a desperate evacuation. Families had tried to flee their homes, loading their possessions into any ship that could fly. But the Void Swarm had caught them all, leaving no survivors. Captain, I'm detecting something else, Kim said, her voice shaking. There are energy signatures in the debris. Some of these ships are still powered. Marcus made a decision that would haunt him for years. We're going to investigate. If there are survivors, we need to help them. The Prometheus moved carefully. Through the debris field, its sensors searching for signs of life. They found 3 ships that still had power, but when they tried to communicate, there was no response. Sir, I'm detecting life signs on the nearest vessel, reported the sensor. Officer, but they're very weak. Marcus ordered a boarding party to investigate. What they found inside the alien ship was beyond anything they had imagined. The crew was still alive, but they were completely catatonic, staring at nothing with empty eyes. Doctor Walsh examined the survivors with portable medical equipment. Captain, they're physically unharmed, but their minds are gone. It's like they've been drained of all consciousness. The Void Swarm did this? I think so. The Therians mentioned that the Void Swarm doesn't just destroy, it consumes. Maybe they consume more than just ships and planets. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. They were facing an enemy that didn't just kill their opponents, but somehow stole their very consciousness. The implications were terrifying. The squadron continued their journey, but the discovery of the catatonic survivors changed everything. This wasn't just a military conflict. It was a fight for the survival of thinking beings throughout the galaxy. 5 days later, they encountered their first living Void Swarm ships. The enemy vessels appeared on their sensors like ghosts, dark shapes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. There were only 3 of them, but they moved with a coordination that was unsettling to watch. Captain, they're changing. Course to intercept us, Kim reported. Should we retreat? Marcus studied the tactical display. His orders were to avoid engagement, but these ships were between his squadron and the Therian system. Negative. We need to see what we're up against. The battle that followed was unlike anything in human military history. The Void Swarm ships didn't use conventional weapons, instead firing beams of energy that seemed to drain power from their targets. The first human ship to be hit, the destroyer used Defiance, simply went dark and began drifting. They're not trying to destroy us, Marcus realized. They're trying to disable us. He ordered his squadron to use tactics that no military academy had ever taught. Instead of maintaining formation, the human ships scattered in all directions, firing randomly and using their engines in ways that defied logic. The Void Swarm ships tried to adapt, but they couldn't predict chaos. All ships ramming speed. Marcus ordered. If they want to drain our power, let's give them more than they can handle. The human ships overloaded their engines and weapons, creating massive energy discharges. The Void Swarm ships, designed to absorb and redirect energy, were overwhelmed by the chaotic input. One by one, they began to shut down. When the battle was over, 2 of the Void Swarm ships had been destroyed, and the third was drifting powerlessly. The human squadron had lost 1 ship, but they had learned something invaluable. The enemy could be beaten. Dr. Walsh, analyze everything we just saw, Marcus ordered. I want to know how they think, how they fight, and most importantly, how we can kill them. As his squadron continued toward the Therian system, Marcus sent a detailed report back to the main fleet. Humanity had won its first battle against the Void Swarm, but he knew it was just the beginning. The real war was still ahead of them. The Therian system came into view a week later, and what they saw broke their hearts. The outer planets were dark, their surfaces scarred and lifeless. The inner system was filled with debris and the wreckage of a once great civilization. But as they approached the homeworld, they detected something that gave them hope. The Therians were still fighting. Captain, I'm receiving a weak transmission from the planet's surface, Kim reported. It's the Therians. They're still alive. Marcus smiled for the first time in days. Signal the main fleet. Tell them we found survivors, and we're going to save them. The real battle was about to begin. Asterisk.